Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker with Chevron Home Care. Very glad you are joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. You know, you've heard me over the years talk about the value and the gift of presence. Well, fortunately, we have that today as we welcome in the studio Chett Chiasson. Chett, thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Keith. Thanks for having me, and it's good to be in studio with you
It
today.
really, really is. You know, it's one of those things that over the last few years we've been talking about how much importance there is in being able to just kind of be around and see people and be next to people. And so, Chett, of course, Executive Director of the Greater Lafourche Port Commission. And we always like to get this general update. So we always love what's happening at the port. I think most of us over the years have grown to appreciate the impact and the importance of the port. But you know some of those things that are happening. I always love to get an update.
Well, thank you. We are continuing to move things along in Port Fourchon from both a normal project standpoint, what we would do every day, but as well as from a recovery standpoint. As we all know, everyone's still recovering from Hurricane Ida. So we're continuing to move forward our projects, as I've said in the past and in talking with you. But those are continuing to spur along. We're finalizing some of those projects and getting some others are under construction and coming to an end. So it's very positive. We're happy about the movement forward, and before the end of the middle of next year. By the end of the year, we'll have several projects complete.
Okay.
And then within the next 6 months, we should be just about complete with all of our recovery projects, all our repairs on our buildings and the like.
And it's just one of those things where it just, larger commercial areas, it just takes longer. Supplies still one of those concerns, getting those things. Anything in particular that we're most excited about going on at the port?
So, we're completing a new bulkhead project. We're gonna start some more. We're in the budgeting phase right now as we do an annual budget at the end of every year for the calendar year, the following calendar year. So we're budgeting our new projects, but we have bulkhead projects under construction now that's going to be complete by the end of the year. So that's new development. We have a lease supposed to be signed very soon.
Oh my!
On that site. So so that's positive to see new business coming in to the port. We have some dredging taking place as we speak. The Corps of Engineers doing their maintenance projects.
Okay.
We have some other dredging projects that we're bidding out that the port is responsible for. So again, new projects coming along, new development, getting some dredge work done that needs to be done, and other repairs and projects in the works, and preparing for next year.
For next year.
And what that'll look like in terms of the construction process. And look, still, we have to talk about LA1. LA1 is under construction and it's moving. There's some pipeline work going on right now. Some of the pipeline owners further on the southern side of where the new bridge is going to be connected, pipelines had to be moved. That's taking place. And then once that's done, the Port Commission has actually committed to do the mitigation for the project.
Okay.
So we're going to go and dredge a channel that's going to be coming in, and we're going to use that material beneficially, and create some marsh area that Leeville desperately needs.
It really does. It's just open water.
That's correct.
In a lot of places. And so that process of, we say, we're going to do these things to LA1, those come with a lot of structural changes and like pipeline and those kinds of things that have to be moved. That's a large undertaking.
It is a very large undertaking. So it's understandable that a project of that magnitude would cost almost $500 million.
Right. And just what that takes. I love the fact that over at the port, there's a lot of things you guys are having to do, a lot of things y'all are partnering with the Corps of Engineers. And there's always that didactic perspective, right? With either the state and with you guys, with the Corps and you guys, and nationally. Some of those monies that come and go. It's a big pool of things to consider with projects.
That's correct. And over the years, I think from a regional perspective, but for sure from a port perspective, we've done a lot of work with other agencies putting financial package together that fit the mold of every level of government. Putting those packages together to be able to get good infrastructure projects here that benefit the community and the economy and our environment. So that's what we're trying to do.
Right, and finding that balance. Now, speaking of, you mentioned a lease to get that bulkhead work done. What about leases in the Gulf?
So
Where
Lisa,
are we? Where are
yeah.
we with that?
So leases in the Gulf, I think there's some positivity there in terms of leases
Okay.
coming out. You know, the one of the bills, the last bill, the with the in the IRA, I think, no, IJA or
Okay.
IRA, the IRA bill
Okay.
that came out
Okay.
of the federal government.
Right. There's so many of those that keep coming out. It's hard to keep track.
That's
Right.
correct. That's correct. So the IRA bill that came out from the federal government actually put forth the lease sale that took place last November that was then nullified.
Right.
It put it back in effect. So those
Okay.
leases are coming.
Good.
So that's a positive thing. The
Very
other
much so.
thing is as part of some of those bills as well, it moved forward some leasing, new leases that'll take place the first quarter of next year. So in March, there's supposed to be another lease sale that was just announced last week. So that's positivity. Now we need to see permits go along with those leases, right?
Right.
For drilling,
Right.
and that's where we see the true activity,
Right.
right? But in terms of things moving forward, that seems to be positive. We'll see what kind of impact it has
Right.
on our production.
Right. So
in
it's
the
got to
future.
take the next step. So
Absolutely.
we got in writing they say you can go. Now we need to say you can work.
Correct.
And so get those things to do.
That's right.
Chet, having you here is a really good thing. We appreciate it. One of those things where we talk every time we come on, we talk about this longevity of recovery process. We talked about it for COVID and how we've been recovering. Ida threw us for a loop, but we had a lot of help for Ida. We had some people doing some things. Tell me this concept from where Ida meets Ian and what y'all were able to do here just recently.
So as we know, after Hurricane Ida, people flocked into our region to help, just provide food, water, the basic needs that people have after a devastating impact from a storm like this. So, you know, even in our own recovery, people are still recovering here. There's still, you know, people not living in their homes and the like. However, we know we need to pay it forward when we
Right.
can. So we were very blessed to be able to partner with Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office, the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office, Lafourche Parish Government, the Lafourche Fire District, to provide a truckload of products to head towards Florida. And the Port Commission, Harbor Police, we kind of banded together, put money out of our own pockets, and bought 8 pallets of water.
Wow.
And put on that truck to get out to those that are in need. And, you know, it's just water, but everybody needs it, and you need it to
Absolutely.
survive. So that's why we wanted to do something like that. But they brought, you know, cleaning products and
Right.
clothes and diapers and all of those bare necessities
Right.
that we need to survive. So we're very happy to be able to try to do anything, little bit that we can. It's just a little bit.
Right.
But you know, we're happy to see the parish and all those other entities bring that earlier this week.
Well, and just being able to coordinate those efforts really takes a lot. And it's nice to be able, I brag all the time about how Terrebonne and Lafourche partner.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, to me, there's no line. There's no parish lines because we take care of each other. And being aware of the people coming in, I know that people like Dean Schwest, I reached out to him right after the storm, and he said, Keith, give it a little time.
Yeah.
He said they don't need anything right now. They need to go back and figure out what's going on before we send stuff. And so sending those things right now, very, very helpful.
Yep.
Because this is when people are, takes 25 to 40 days or so for people to kind of get back to figuring out what do we need to do.
Right.
And so we're right in that pattern where people are really working hard. They need that water
Right.
to be able to do that.
Right. And this is the time too, is in the immediate aftermath, there's so many people going out there, right?
Right.
But it's the 30 to 40 to 50 days out that that rush stops.
Right. Yeah.
So this is kind of like a back recovery of trying to help to still provide for the needs of folks that have been so devastated.
And one of the things that's interesting, like we talked about, having just some food and some basic needs met when you don't have to think about it.
Correct.
So you bring a case of water to a group that's doing some work, clearing out a house that got a lot of water, because we know flooding was a big
Right.
issue for this particular storm,
Right.
being Ian. Just a group that's going to help others
That's right.
to kind of clean up their house that got so many feet of water in it. Just having a case of water there, that makes a huge difference.
That's correct. That's
And so
correct.
those little things go a really long way. And it's nice because now it's because two things happen. Somebody did something nice for you, but you're drinking that water thinking somebody else made the impact to help us.
Right.
And that just feels good. We know what that feels like. You know, we
correct.
know what it feels like. People in Lake Charles knew what that felt like as we helped them just the year before. So now we have these 3 years in a row of where we're really trying to impact and help people.
That's right.
And do that.
Right.
So
I think
it's
we
just
appreciate,
really nice.
yeah, exactly. And we appreciate the leadership of, you know, Sheriff Weber, Sheriff Saunier, and Parish Presidents Dove and Archie Chasson, and the fire chief down the bayou, and Devin Didon, and our chief of police at the Port Commission, Mike Kindler, and all of those folks for kind of putting this together and then bringing that over there.
Yeah, and look, and you know, it's not that easy to get all that stuff
No.
together and move it over there and get it to where it needs to go.
Correct.
That's the big thing that we worry about, especially when we send stuff like overseas, you know, is it getting where it needs to go? Finding out, having a contact there. And the good news is, you know, through the sheriff's office and through the port, you guys have connections with people
Correct.
all over.
That's
right.
right. That's
we,
right.
We find out things that happen for them and for their ports and
Right.
things that they're dealing with. And
Right.
so that's always really helpful. And so I appreciate that. I got to tell you, the social worker in me loves it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that my wife and I have talked about. How do we help people? Y'all were able to get it together and go.
Right.
And at the right time. Timing seems to matter a great deal.
That's absolutely correct.
And like we were talking about these leases, timing really makes a difference. And it's one of those things y'all are always fighting for
Yep.
to make sure that we can keep the port going and we can make sure that we keep growing as we kind of change what we're doing and we become as energy efficient as we can.
That's correct.
And at the same time, utilizing what we have available to do that with.
That's right. And look, people are recognizing that. They're recognizing the work that has taken place in our communities for so long. You know, just recently in the last week, we've had 3 different visits from 3 different types of groups. And it's been very interesting.
I want to learn about that because it's really interesting to know that you're doing great work. But when you have people that are coming in that are nationally known for what they provide educationally and what they do,
Right.
and they're coming to look at what are you doing at the port? What are you doing? Because that's so important. The one thing we always want to do is maybe build a reputation. And that's one of the things that people are starting to recognize some. Let's talk about some of these people that are coming to find out what's going on with the port. You mentioned it in the last segment.
Right.
I want to know a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So, look, over the years, we've had so many people come in and see the port and look at it and want to understand how we operate and those things and how industry and the environment work together and how, you know, we benefit the economy and all of those things. But it just seems in the more recent time, especially in the advent of Hurricane Ida and the recovery and what we're doing there, they want to come and see what we're accomplishing, how we can be so resilient, how we're working. You know, I say we, and I really truly mean that collectively.
Right.
So we're kind of like the figurehead of the Port Authority, and we facilitate a lot of these things. But our customers, the industries we serve, they're the ones doing a lot of work, right?
Those businesses.
Correct.
Right.
That's correct. So we're very fortunate to have that big network. But we're kind of, from the Port Authority standpoint, we're the figurehead of what goes on in the port. So we work very closely with our customers, but you know we're the mouthpiece a lot of times,
Right.
For a lot
So
of things.
they hear
going
about
on.
the good things
Correct.
that are going on, like right now.
That's
like we
right.
get a chance to do this and talk about quite often.
Correct.
But let's talk about some
Sure.
of those people that have come through and maybe just the ability for you guys to kind of show this is what we do.
Right.
I liken it to how people see the Morganza to the Gulf
Yes.
and that levee system and how everybody in the country seems to know what that is.
That's right.
We need to let everybody in the country know what's going on. Let's talk about some of the visits from those
So
people.
we've had, in the last week, we've had 2 different industry groups come
Okay.
in. So the American Petroleum Institute came in last Monday. You may have seen some other media outlets
Sharing that, right.
sharing that, and that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
They came in, visit Fouchon to see how things are done there and how we're servicing, 16% of the nation's oil supply out of Port Fouchon, our customers.
16%.
of the nation's oil
nation's
supply.
oil supply.
It's serviced
Important
out of Port
factor.
Fourchon.
Right.
That's important.
Yeah.
It's huge for the economy. And we've also had just earlier this week from the Louisiana Mid-Continent Oil and Gas Association brought in a group called the Western States Petroleum Alliance. So the Western states of the United States coming in to see how we do things.
And they're not just coming in South Louisiana; they coming down Port Fourchon.
That's correct. And they want to understand how people interact with the port from a general standpoint, and then how we do things. And every time we bring folks like that in, we put them on a boat.
Okay.
We have a vessel that's large enough to fit 12, 15, 18 people on.
Right.
We put them on there and we go take the port tour, not by car, but by vessel, by boat. And that is such a new and different perspective.
Right.
And they get the vast amount of activity that goes on, how large this equipment is. And, you're explaining to them about what the different vessels do.
Right.
Why they're important. Why is this one important compared to this one? What does that vessel with that helideck do with the big knuckle boom crane on the back? Well, that's a subsea vessel, and it connects every well to that one platform, in the deep water. It's kind of explaining those things, the nuances of what you're seeing there.
Right.
And they're always amazed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always fun to blow people's minds. Right.
Right.
It's a fun thing.
Well, and it's almost like us telling a representative this road is bad.
Yeah.
But until you ride on that road,
That's correct.
maybe you don't know.
That's correct.
So you take them and you get them from that water perspective on that vessel, and then you see things on the backside that you can't see by standing on dry land.
That's correct.
And it's just that different perspective. So we're actually changing how people see the
Yes.
port, because that's how it really works.
That is correct.
And it's impressive.
It is, and we're very proud to be a part of that. We never take it for granted, right? Because we know that it can be taken from us at any point,
Right.
with the right storm or what have you,
Right.
So
And-
we
and-
always
and
have
I'd
to
have
protect
tried.
it. I'd
I'd
have
have
tried,
tried.
but it didn't work.
That's
So,
right.
So we
Right.
withstood that.
Right.
The other thing I can say is, we just had a recent visit from President of LSU, President William Tate.
Right.
To come in and see, again, he did a coastal tour. He spoke with folks there in Terrebonne and Lafourche on the levee side from, coastal protection restoration. And then he came down to the port to kind of see where all of that comes together. And I'll tell you, we work closely with Nichols as well.
Right.
And, any academic group we work very closely with, and we're trying to put some things together that are will have some tangible impact for the learning side, from the academic side, and put some application to the theory that they're learning in school.
Right. And so partnering with those secondary education makes a huge difference. And we've got to help educate what's going on so that they can build that and y'all can partner together. We look forward to long partnerships with secondary education. We appreciate the partnership that we have with you guys at the port and what you do. And so thanks so much for everything, Chett. Thanks for being here.
Appreciate it.
And that will do it for us here for this particular segment. Don't go anywhere. A whole lot more local programming right here on HTV.